Can you describe your first failure?
Relationships? No, just kidding.
What would it mean to be the #1 social app in the social media capital of the world? Well, for Kumu, it meant thinking deeply about the true potential of the Philippines and recruiting a world-class team across the diaspora and throughout the Philippines to bring these words into action. Meet Roland Ros, and this is
How we built one of the highest grossing social apps in the world. To be able to raise over $100 million from a startup that was founded in a condo 3 years ago, I think is something that's never happened before. And it wasn't just the amount, I think it was the pedigree of the investor. You know, General Atlantic, to be able to make its first ever investment in the country really sends a signal, not just for Kumu, but for the Philippine tech ecosystem. And then literally weeks after we made that announcement, Gcash just announced $300 million raise at a $2 billion valuation. I mean, these are numbers that have not ever happened before. The ecosystem is turning a corner because traditionally, Filipino startups could not do this because they were being eaten up by big fish. But Kumu, in addition to those international investors, we were the first ever startup to get funding from the C family of SM, the Ayala family, and the Gokongwei family, that for the first time ever, you have these families investing for a minority stake in the business and letting them grow. And that's something that we're super grateful for. I just found myself face to face with an opportunity of like, okay, like, you know, do I launch and scale a medium-sized business in Los Angeles, or would I be able to go back to my college dreams of really impacting the Philippines and moving back? And it's not just me, it's so crazy. Like, I'm running into, you know, like for example, Henry, one of the top edtech platforms, he's like a French Filipino, Filipino Australians, Filipino Canadians. It's amazing to see how these global Filipinos, just like myself, are seeing these opportunities and coming back home and doing this. There's like a program that I was trying to get into and they didn't get me in. It was like a Filipino American thing. And I remember telling them that I had this idea, you know, and they just don't believe you. And it's crazy because 3 years ago, when you build something, no one's gonna believe you. You feel like, it felt like Noah, right? You're building a boat. And like, you know, the Filipino American community, not all, but just certain leaders were just kind of ridiculing me. And it's funny because then COVID hits and then it's like an arc, right? So I think that's where the luck part comes in. And the cool part is you do the hard work to survive and to build something that can grow. But if you're super intentional with that information and you're able to really take out the value and build something real, again, back to that original statement, I guess you do get luckier the harder you work, because we did have to work really hard to get to that boat situation. It's just that no one could have predicted this thing. No one. Even if it didn't happen, we'd still be okay. But this thing shot us into a certain level that, you know, I'm grateful for, because that's not me, you know. Let's take it spiritual, you know, I'm just giving that all up to a higher power. And so, yeah, I don't know. I can't believe we started this thing like 3 years ago. That's crazy. Anyways, yeah. So one thing that really inspired me is Rexy. Rexy's one of the kindest, most compassionate, and most intelligent people I've ever met. And when he founded Kaya Collaborative, he was looking for the most promising Filipino students. And so when he was doing these 2-month-long internships for these Filipino students at Harvard, Stanford, you know, Georgetown, Brown, where he went, UCLA, USC, University of Toronto, I was so inspired by the life-changing experiences these students were going through, very similar to the life-changing experience that I had. And so when it was time to start Kumu, I knew that he was the one that I needed to work with to get this thing going. And so from there, we both knew we couldn't do it on our own. And so very similar to like the Avengers, we just started traveling all around the country looking for people that we could trust to do this. Whether it was my cousin, Black Widow in New York, or James, you know, our Nick Fury, who's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, based in Silicon Valley, or even Angelo, Hulk, you know, in Los Angeles, or, you know, he also has a business in the Philippines. For us, it was really about the importance of trust. And so to your point about recruiting people that I do go back 20 years with, I think a lot of it just had to do with our understanding that we couldn't do it on our own. And we needed to find people that we could trust with our lives and just pick up everything that we built in the US and just leave everything behind and just move to the Philippines. Investing in the next generation is super important. You know, our first advisor, Dado Banatao, he has been traditionally one of those people that a lot of entrepreneurs look up to. And for him to spend that time with us, making sure that we understood that before you get funding, you know, is the timing good? What's your technological advantage? What's your operating plan? You know, how's your team looking? And most importantly, the timing of the business. And for him to do that, and for us, and the way that we're currently growing at, there is that fundamental responsibility of paying it forward and being able to really invest in the next generation of people. So whether, you know, we see super promising folks in the community, right? Like with yourself, with One Down, or say Romeo with Romeo Chocolates, or some of our early investors, you know, JP and Adrian. I remember when they first had this idea of opening up an ice cream shop. We were like, what? You're opening an ice cream shop in Los Angeles? And, you know, being able to hear their story and spending that time with them, and then to see, you know, how far they've grown. You know, I think that it is really important to continue to find, you know, those like super promising folks to do that. Because honestly, right now, like for example, with Manny Ayala and Endeavor, that's actually one of our initiatives, is just really recruiting and finding, you know, Filipinos in the diaspora to encourage them and to come back home. Sorry, I've never done that before, so I just want to do that. Hey, One Down. This is Roland Ros. I'm the founder and CEO of Kumu, and this is me representing.